We cannot allow the most dangerous regime in the world to also have the most dangerous weapons in the world. So we carried out a surgical strike on Iran. In 1 minute, we managed to eliminate more than 40 high-ranking Iranian officials, including Iran's top leader Khamenei. We eliminated him.
1 minute, 60 seconds is the time it takes to make a coffee, to send a message, to walk down a hallway. In 1 minute, the country, which terrorized the Middle East for decades, lost all its leaders at once.
I think this story will be told for years to come. Books will be written throughout history about what we managed to do, the number of leaders we eliminated in 1 minute.
But how was this possible?
Imagine a neighbor who for 40 years has wished death upon your entire family. And this neighbor would shout every day, "Death, death, death." But this neighbor is actually trying to find ways to put his desire to kill the family next door into practice.
You'll understand this answer in the next few minutes, but before any numbers, any attack, any bomb, understand one thing. This story isn't about missiles. It's about what happens when you think you're protected and you're not. As you may have already seen in the news, on February 28th, 2026, the United States and Israel launched the largest coordinated military operation in the region in decades. The Americans called it Operation Epic Fury, and the Israelis called it Operation Roaring Lion. The objective was simple to state and difficult to execute: to eliminate the Iranian threat once and for all. But there is something about this operation that goes far beyond the 3,000 targets hit, beyond the sunken ships, beyond the destroyed factories. What makes this operation different from anything that came before is what Israel knew about Iran, and what Iran didn't know that Israel knew. To understand what happened in that bunker, you first need to understand how Iran was trying to protect itself. You see, the Iranian leaders had a real and justified fear of Israel. Over the years, Israel had demonstrated a frightening ability to track and eliminate targets within Iranian territory itself. Nuclear scientists killed in their homes, equipment destroyed inside facilities that Iran thought no one knew the location of. A series of actions that sent a clear message: there is no completely safe place. Because of this, the Iranian leaders made a decision that seemed smart. They almost completely stopped communicating through digital means. No emails, no messaging apps, no cell phone calls. They knew that the Israeli hackers were too sophisticated. Any digital signal was an open window for the enemy. So they went back to basics, started having face-to-face meetings, leaving no electronic trace. The problem is that this decision created a pattern, and patterns can be tracked. Every time the Iranian leaders needed to make an important decision, they had to be physically in the same place at the same time. Israel learned to recognize these moments, learned to identify when a meeting was happening, and when they identified it, they attacked. It was an invisible trap. Iran had traded a digital danger for a physical danger without realizing it. By fleeing from technology, they had created a predictable routine, and predictable routines for intelligence as sophisticated as Israel's are worth more than any intercepted message. The result was always the same. Every time the Iranian leaders met in person, Israel was already waiting, but there was something even more serious that Iran didn't know. Beneath downtown Tehran, there was a bunker. Not just any bunker. It was the most protected structure of the regime, built over years with millions of dollars invested, designed to survive any airstrike, Khamenei's maximum security project. The bunker was directly beneath the complex where the Ayatollah worked. It was larger than the surface complex and spread across multiple streets in the center of the Iranian capital. It had several independent entrances, multiple emergency exits, and specific meeting rooms for the regime's most senior officials. Khamenei had built that structure believing that no one would know of its existence, or that even if they did, no one would have the technology to destroy it. He was completely wrong on both counts. Israel not only knew that the bunker existed, Israel knew exactly what it looked like inside. After the attack, Israeli forces released a 3D image of the inside of the bunker. Everything was there. The complete structure, the exact depth of each level, the width of each corridor, the precise location of every meeting room. Then, in a detail that stunned analysts around the world, the posters hanging on the interior walls appeared. Think about what that means. To know which posters were hanging inside an ultra-secret underground bunker, someone had to have been inside or had access to someone who was. This isn't information captured by a computer, it's not a drone, it's not a satellite, it's an informant inside the heart of the enemy regime, so close to power that he knew the decoration of the walls. Iran's biggest secret had been completely exposed, but Iran didn't know it. And this is exactly where the story gets even more impressive. Think about it with me. If Israel knew every detail about that bunker, why didn't they just destroy the bunker right from the start? Why wait? Because Israel was using this knowledge for something much bigger than just destroying a concrete structure. They were using it to eliminate everyone who went inside it. If Israel knew every detail about that bunker, why wasn't Khamenei inside it when the first missiles arrived? The answer lies in a deception operation that will go down in military history books. In the 24 hours before the start of the operation, Israel and the United States carried out a carefully prepared deception plan. The goal was to make Iran believe that no attack was coming, that it would be a night like any other. Iranian intelligence had ways to monitor the behavior of Israeli military personnel and observed their patterns. They knew that before a major operation, the commanders would stay at the Kiryat, the headquarters of the Israeli army, something similar to the American Pentagon. When the generals were there, it was a warning sign. It was a pattern that the Iranians knew well, so Israel turned that signal against them. On a Friday night, the top generals of the Israel Defense Forces went home for Shabbat dinner with their families. Far from command, far from any sign that something was about to happen, Iranian intelligence watched and concluded the obvious. Generals at home for Friday night dinner are not about to launch an operation. Iran relaxed. At the same time, Donald Trump made public statements in the hours before, all calculated to reinforce this false sense of security. Every word was chosen to feed the illusion that nothing was happening.
We have to go to work. We have to go to work.
The result was exactly what the planners had hoped for. Khamenei didn't go to the bunker. He stayed above ground in the surface complex, confident that it would be a quiet night. When the first Israeli planes arrived over Tehran, he was exposed and was eliminated in the initial attack. Khamenei's death had an immediate and fatal effect on the leaders who survived the first attack. They went to the bunker, and the logic was understandable. Khamenei had died because he hadn't gone down to the underground protection. The conclusion seemed obvious. The bunker was the safe place. That's where they needed to run. Imagine the scene. The most powerful leader in Iran has just been killed. No one knows what to do. Communications are going down. The missiles are coming, and the most powerful men in the regime are running to the only place where they believe they are safe. That bunker that took years and millions to build. The place Khamenei never needed to use. The place that now seemed to be the only way out. Chief of Staff, Head of Intelligence, Commander of the Revolutionary Guard, Commander of the Iranian Air Force. 40 of the regime's most powerful officers gathered in the same place at the moment of greatest chaos, seeking protection in the structure they believed to be invulnerable. What they didn't know was that Israel had mapped every meter of that bunker, knew the exact depth, knew the most vulnerable structural points, and knew precisely how to destroy it completely and irreversibly. 50 Israeli Air Force jets dropped approximately 100 bombs on the site in less than a minute. 40, maybe more, of the main leaders of the Iranian regime were eliminated. Iran's greatest shield had turned into Iran's greatest trap. What came next was a crisis that the regime had not foreseen and did not know how to resolve. Iran needed a new supreme leader. The country's constitution required it. Without a supreme leader, the regime lost its center, the person who gave the final word on every important decision. But there was a problem that no law could solve. Nobody wanted the position. 2 Ayatollahs were offered the position, 2 refused. The reason was simple and terrifying. Anyone who took the position would immediately become Israel's #1 target, and everyone in Iran already understood what that meant in practice. Israel had demonstrated that it knew what was happening inside the regime's most secret bunkers. It had demonstrated that it could eliminate 40 leaders in less than 60 seconds. It had shown that no position, no protection, and no secret was beyond its reach. Accepting the title of Supreme Leader was, at that moment, almost like signing your own death sentence. The group responsible for choosing the new leader, the Assembly of Experts, made up of senior religious figures of the regime, moved its meetings to a remote format and adopted remote voting. Its members refused to be physically in the same place at the same time, because now everyone knew what happened when Iranian leaders met in person. The regime had lost something that no missile could restore. The certainty that there was a safe place to meet, make decisions, and continue functioning as a government. And the collapse was not limited to Iran. For decades, the Iranian regime had built a network of influence that spread throughout the region. The idea was simple. Instead of going to war directly, Iran created and funded armed groups in neighboring countries. These groups fought on behalf of Iran, without Iran having to put its own soldiers on the front lines. Hamas in the Gaza Strip, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Houthis in Yemen, militias in Iraq. Each of these groups received funding, weapons, and guidance from Tehran. Just in the past year, Iran had allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to keep this network operating. It was this network that allowed Iran to cause trouble in several countries at the same time, without having to send its own army. Iran financed other groups to fight in its place. With the Iranian leadership eliminated, the missile factories destroyed, and the regime's money compromised, this network began to feel the effects immediately. The groups depended on Iran to operate. Without missiles coming from Tehran, the weapon stockpile stopped growing, and without money, operations stalled. Without the central leadership to give orders and coordinate, the groups became isolated, each one looking out for itself instead of acting as part of a team. The destruction of Iran was not just the destruction of a country, It was the dismantling of an entire network of power that had taken decades to build. And you know what's even more curious? There's an irony at the center of this whole story. Look, Iran invested fortunes and years building the regime's most protected bunker precisely to survive a moment like this. They believed that structure was indestructible, that it was the guarantee the regime would continue to exist, even under attack. And at the moment of greatest crisis, when 40 of the most important leaders ran to that bunker seeking protection, it was exactly there that they met their end. The regime's greatest secret had become its greatest trap. Israel did not attack blindly. It did not depend on luck. For years, it had built an intelligence network so deep, so embedded that it knew what was happening inside the most protected walls of the enemy. It knew which posters were on the walls of a secret underground bunker. It knew every corridor, every room, every weak point of a structure that Iran thought was invisible to the world. And when the time came, it used all of that with a precision the world had never seen before. But perhaps the most impressive thing of all is not the operation itself. It's what it reveals when you take a step back and look at the big picture. Iran spent decades trying to destroy Israel, spent fortunes on missiles, armed groups, and bunkers, and in the end it was exactly all of that which accelerated its own destruction. The missiles became targets, the armed groups became dependent with no one to support them, and the bunker became a trap. But if we stop to take a closer look, Iran's biggest mistake wasn't building bombs, it was believing they knew how to keep secrets. Power without intelligence isn't power, it's an illusion waiting to be destroyed. And you, what do you think? Do you believe that a regime that loses 40 leaders in a minute still has the ability to rebuild itself? Leave your opinion in the comments. If this video helped you understand what really happened, share it with someone who also wants to know and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next analyses. See you next time!